All right, I'm going to give this another try. Something just keeps telling me to. And today showed one person what I filmed yesterday, somebody that is very near and dear to me and honest and intelligent. And he asks, why? Why am I recording myself? And I think the answer is because I can. We have the technology to do anything, and I find that I talk to think, and in the last few years I've learned to not burden my friends with all of my thoughts as I'm trying to figure things out. And so I began writing, and everything's written in journals, and videos I think will be easier to review and see the patterns or hear the patterns in order to make decisions and hone in and focus. And so that's why, to watch myself, to learn more about the direction I need to go based on the things that I'm saying, and to think through the experiences that I'm having. So you're catching me or rather, I guess if you're watching this, you're catching me. But I am at the tail end of what one might call a spiritual journey that started about 6 months ago. Yesterday, I talked about how this has been about a 1.5-year process of unearthing myself and finding out who I am when I remove all the layers of influencers throughout my life. And at some point, the spiritual journey can become a burden. It's like the people who take drugs to escape their lives. That works as a temporary reprieve, but it is not a long-term strategy. And so likewise, like, the spiritual journey is great for finding out more about oneself, and it is not a long-term strategy for living your life. So I wrote down several questions that I will begin answering over the next few days to sort of sum up the journey. And I also gave myself permission to identify when I will take another journey, because this is not the first spiritual journey I've taken. It's definitely at least the second, maybe the third. I tend to do it before any major decision, and I've got a friend in New York who would tell me that I need to just keep my head down and keep working until I get where I'm trying to go. But life is so much about looking around on your way through it, and so before any major decision, I tend to really take a step back and identify, is this what I want to be doing? And if yes, which it's usually yes, but how and why and for what reasons? And that helps me identify, like, it's easy to think like, oh, I'd like to be a speaker and influence thousands of people for the better and share my story. And then when you stop and think about the logistics, it's like, well, that means I'm flying from place to place or driving from place to place, and lots of different people all of the time in different hotels. And is that what I really want to do? And I think, like, this journey has really been settling, perhaps because of my age, that I've realized I can do all the things in different seasons. And so sure, I could be a speaker and that could last a couple years or a year, where I make a tour or take the knowledge that I have in real estate and begin disseminating it to agents across the country and training them, which is a similar experience of, like, flying to and fro, staying in different hotels, working with different people. And it doesn't have to be forever. It could be a really cool experience. But right now I have 4 animals that rely on me at home. They're not kids, and I do have people that come and stay with them when I leave. I'm fortunate to have a couple friends that love staying here and taking care of the zoo. And a roommate situation could also solve that, the challenge of like being gone a lot. Just totally an option. I think I do like the idea of traveling from place to place and sharing what I know, whether it's in the realm of real estate or general knowledge on finding yourself, personal journeys. I certainly feel like more of an expert on personal journeys this time around, considering it has been my second or third deep dive. The first was right before becoming a realtor, or in the process of becoming a realtor and knowing the potential of the income that I was about to make. And it lasted about 6 months of uncertainty and wanting to understand kind of why. And the second one was after I lost the baby. It was sort of a forced spiritual journey. Like, I think that I would have been just as content to continue working and stuffing and pretending that nothing had changed, because I never lived with the baby. It was kind of as if nothing changed. There just wasn't a baby as anticipated. But I had money saved up, and traveling seemed to be the normal answer in the case of, in this case of grief. And so that's what I did. I traveled a lot, and I don't know that I would do that again if given, not that I'm asking for a second chance to go through that experience, but I think that my answer would have been more to just stay home and work and go about life as normal and use that money for something good, because those travels were certainly not fun. They were sad and depressing, and oftentimes alone. And it was one of those things that I did it because it seemed like that's what you do, and it was not my truth to go traveling. So, lesson learned. Listen to your heart, follow your truth, even in times of grief and uncertainty and excitement. Like, it only takes a minute to kind of stop and take a few deep breaths, and it's that voice that's like go left, just go left, that we tend to want to ignore and go right just because like logically right looks smarter or sounds better. But when that voice is telling us to go left, it's because that's kind of our true inner sense. Now, I think it could get confused for some people by the voices of the influencers in our lives that are saying like, if this then that, like, you must get a degree and go to college and get married and have kids. And that actually was not what my parents preached, but I think that's like in society standard. And then I'm sure there's lots of like cultural variations in what like parents tell their kids and what's normal in times of grief and improvement and career changes. And so I'd say like the best way to know if it's your heart is if it's the quietest voice in the room, in this room, is the one, and it's just one voice and it's consistent. It doesn't change its mind. Where all the voices that are louder and more obnoxious and more like kind of front of your brain, those are the ones that are not your truth. And it's amazing, like people oftentimes don't follow that tiny voice because it doesn't sound like the logical answer, and we operate out of fear oftentimes, and wondering like, well, that's not what I was told to do, so like how will that yield the results that I'm looking for? But like your results are so personal that there's no way that any other person can tell you where your person results are going to be. And the universe is very keen on what we want as individuals, and when that tiny heart voice is telling us to go left and we do, it's like you've passed a test and all things will turn in your favor. And there is going to be another test immediately following. But when you listen to your heart voice and pass that test, then things continue to get easier and easier and more effortless. And that this process that I'm talking about of like passing tests and following your truth could be some form of the process of manifestation. But it's the idea that so long as you're doing what your heart tells you to, you will get where you are meant to go, and you will enjoy the ride a lot more because it will be true to you. And it's unknown either direction. Even if you do what somebody tells you to do, you don't know what's going to happen after you do that. And if the universe is like, man, you were supposed to go left, and it puts a bunch of blocks in your way because you chose right, because that's what somebody said to do, the voices outside of yourself said, go right, and you go right, like, that doesn't equal certain success. And the voices can also be like magazine articles or media or just like old adages that we hear again and again. I was thinking of common limiting beliefs earlier. I'll get back to you on that. Tune in on the next video, and so it can be anything that guides us in the direction that feels like what we're supposed to do, and that's where we run into blocks. So as I've continued to choose my heart path and the unknown, I am sort of wrapping up this spiritual journey in the sense that I feel that I've found the answers that I need. I've used the tools that I learned to the best of my ability. I feel practiced in the tools, and now I can put them away in my tool belt where they will be safely stored in a case of emergency or at a time where I need them again. But in the meantime, like, I don't have to keep just like swinging the hammer to swing the hammer. There's like a whole, life out there with people and friends and family and like normal sort of society flow that I will integrate with again. And the whole point of these last 6 months was just to align with myself and with my heart path. And now that I feel aligned, I can re-enter the world a truer version of myself, a brighter version, a more confident version, and look forward to all that will be magnetized in my direction and all of the unknowns that are coming to me, because anything that you or I can plan can be planned 10 times greater by the forces that need us to be where they need us to be in order to have the impact that we're meant to. So that's it for tonight. Mark, was that better? Thanks so much for your help and participating, watching. Maybe nobody will watch this at all, but I'll review them in years to come and surely laugh at myself. So that's it. Have a great night. Bye.